Okay, fifth grade, as I said in the introduction video, even though we're not going to be looking at songs that were written during some kind of events in a war, we are going to be looking at a couple more songs from American history, okay? The first of which is a song called The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Now, the Edmund Fitzgerald was a ship that actually sailed across one of the Great Lakes over there in the northern part of our country and met with some very unfortunate circumstances, okay? So let's get into that now. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so this is the website for the Edmund Fitzgerald, okay? Notice it says SS Edmund Fitzgerald because that is referring to a ship, okay? Now, let's look at this. This particular website was created and is dedicated to all those who unfortunately lost their lives during the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Let's take a moment and look a little bit at the history to give you an idea of what we are talking about. So first, let's talk about the ship specifically, okay? All right, there we go. Okay, so the particular ship that we were talking about is a cargo ship, so it's rather large. It's about 729 feet long, 39 feet high. When we say a breadth of 75 feet, meaning from the side of the ship to the side of the ship. Empty, the Edmund Fitzgerald weighs over 13,000 tons. Okay, so that is quite a heavy ship. Now, it was built by the Great Lakes Engineering Works. It was christened, meaning it was first put into the water in a big celebration on June 8th, 1958. Its very first voyage was a few months after that, September 24th, 1958. And unfortunately, right now, its final resting place is at the bottom of Lake Superior, about 530 feet under the water. The actual event where the Edmund Fitzgerald sank and the crew members lost their lives was on November the 10th of 1975, okay? Now, we could look at a few more facts, but you can totally visit this website, ssedmundfitzgerald.org, and visit a few more facts on your own if you'd like. So let's go into the actual events that led to the Edmund Fitzgerald sinking. Okay, let me see. That is not what I want. We don't want, okay, yeah, here we go. Let's click on that one and see what happens to me. Go over here. There we go. Okay, now, around the Great Lakes, November is referred to the month of storms. Kind of like right now, we're sort of in a hurricane season down here in the South. They experience their storm season around the time of November, okay? This is when a lot of storms, many of them are called gales, that's kind of their version of a hurricane, will just knock ships all across the water on the Great Lakes, and you really don't want to be caught on the water unprepared in the middle of a gale on the Great Lakes. It's just not good. Now, the storm that hit the Edmund Fitzgerald was actually one of the worst and the biggest that the Great Lakes have ever seen. The winds were as fast as 45 knots, which is about 51 miles an hour, okay? Now, they had both the water pumps damaged on the ship, so when water was coming over the railings of the ships, because the waves were reported as being about over 30 feet high, and the ship itself is only like, I think we said 39 feet tall, and that's tall from the bottom of the boat to the top of the railing. That's not tall from the top of the water to the top of the railing. So the ship itself is being swamped by water, but unfortunately both the water pumps on the Edmund Fitzgerald just happened to be damaged at that time. The lifeboats were destroyed with the force of the storm. So is anything that could have gone wrong went wrong with this, okay? So the final voyage, they were scheduled to go for 746 miles from Superior, Wisconsin to Zug Island, Detroit, going across Lake Superior. And the Edmund Fitzgerald sank about 17 miles northwest of Whitefish Bay, Michigan. So you can see the little map here that they've got that shows their trajectory. So they were trying to get here and they leaving from here, and they didn't quite make it, very, very unfortunately. So now let's kind of look into the theories of why they believed the ship itself actually sank. So there's many theories behind this. One theory is that a wave came over, engulfed the ship, pushing the front end of the ship down into the water. When the ship front end hit the ground bottom of the lake first, it snapped in half, and this could explain why there's two portions of the ships side by side. So under the water, the ships are actually sitting not like that straight up against each other. They're actually kind of broken off with a little bit of distance between them. And check out this picture here over there. Let me get to over there. Whoa, this picture right here. Look above me. You can see the size of the ship compared to that guy. And how big this ship was. Now, there's another theory that says the waves lifted both ends of the ship at the same time and smooshed it over, kind of like you only want half a sandwich instead of a whole sandwich. So you put your stuff inside and smoosh it together to give you a half a sandwich. But the center of the ship was so heavy when it got lifted that it stayed down, because the weight of the ship itself weighs over 13 tons by itself, but the cargo, the iron ore that it was carrying that particular day, weighed over 26,000 tons by itself. So we're talking, gosh, let me do some quick math, almost 40,000 tons of weight in the middle as it's being pushed up. So that could have happened. Some people think maybe they bottomed out. They hit a shallow part of the lake near 6 Fathom Shoal. That possibly could have torn something open in the middle that would eventually cause it to break. They think that a faulty hatch cover, those are those covers that cover the windows, but they believe that this wasn't it, because after some expeditions down into Lake Superior to survey the actual ship itself, they discovered that that's not true. Previous structural damage may have caused the sinking. So the ship had been at sea for almost 20 years, so had picked up a little bit of damage along the way. They also think that huge waves swamped the ship and sank it down, the whole thing. Many people call these waves the Three Sisters because they were so huge. 3 waves coming at Edmund Fitzgerald, so large that you could actually see them on radar. And radar is something that picks up like airplanes moving, ships moving along in the sea, stuff like that. So to be picked up for a wave, to be picked up by radar, this has got to be a massive wave. They also think that maybe the Edmund Fitzgerald got caught in between 2 waves that came up to swells, smashed the ship together, and that caused the middle to break in half. So there could have been a number of reasons. The truth is, we will never know. Now, the crew itself, there were 29 men aboard the crew the day that it sank. Unfortunately, very sadly, all 29 lost their lives that day. So there are 29 families that mourn the loss of a loved one. The Edmund Fitzgerald sank many, many years ago. I'm trying to see what it says here. On November 11th, 1975, the families woke up hearing what had happened. Now, keep in mind, the ship at first, when it sank, they didn't know what happened. There was another ship, I think it was the Arthur, and if I go to the timeline here, we can see, and I'm going to scroll down. It's either the Arthur or the MacArthur was the name of the ship. There we go. Let me see if it says the name of the other ship here. The Arthur M. Anderson was the name of this other ship, who was in contact with the Edmund Fitzgerald during the events of that day. That morning, there was a weather report about 1 o'clock that the Edmund Fitzgerald received, saying that the winds are very fast, there's very high waves, need to be careful. Captains and the crew watched these weather reports very carefully before going out. At 7 a.m., they sent out another weather report saying that the winds are at 35 knots with waves 10 feet high. At 3:15 that afternoon, the captain of the SS Arthur M. Anderson watched the Fitzgerald round about Caribou Island, and then comments that they were too close to the 6 Fathom Shoal, which could lead to the theory that maybe it had grounded out and it had damaged during maybe it hit over in that area. The winds are getting faster, 320. You can see that the Arthur M. Anderson reports the winds being at 43 knots, so we're closing in on 50 miles an hour winds. Then there was a radio transmission from the Fitzgerald saying that they had sustained some damage on the top side of the ship. They have a rail down to Vince Loster damage. Will you stay by me till I get to Whitefish Bay, meaning watch me in case something happens, I might need your help. And then the Fitzgerald said, yeah, we got both the pumps going. You can see here at about 4:10, the Fitzgerald reported in saying he had lost both radars, and that, can you stay in contact with me and give me radar plots and tell me where I am based on what your radar is telling you about my ship. About 4:39, the Fitzgerald can't pick up the radio beacon telling them how far they are from Whitefish Point. So that they lost that ability. Between 4:30 and 5, the Edmund Fitzgerald calls for any vessel about whether or not that beacon or the light over the Whitefish Point is going to be fixed. Between 5:30 and 6, there's another ship that showed up, the Avafors, and they're saying that the Whitefish light is now on, but that their ship wasn't receiving a beacon. So Fitzgerald said, yay, okay, good, glad to hear it. There's a light, I can follow the light. And then the Avafor says, the wind is really howling down here. What are the conditions where you are? The Fitzgerald says, don't let nobody on the deck, after there are some shouts being heard over the radio. And the Fitzgerald asked Fitzgerald, what's going on? We didn't quite hear that. And he says, I have a bad list, meaning the ship is kind of tipping to the side. Lost both radars. I'm taking on heavy seas over the deck, one of the worst seas I've ever been in. And Afafor says, if I'm correct, you have 2 radars. And Fitzgerald says, they're both gone. Then there's one more radio transmission. The Anderson is struck by some huge waves about 7 o'clock. They had some damage. And then this radio transmission between the two of them, Anderson's asking the Fitzgerald, how you doing? Now, when I say Anderson and Fitzgerald, I'm talking about the names of the ship, not the names of the captains. Fitzgerald said they're about 10 miles behind. Anderson says we're about 10 miles behind you. And you're about 19 miles ahead of us. So the target where you're trying to go is 9 miles ahead of you. Fitzgerald said, am I clear of anything? I'm not going to hit. And he said, yeah. The other ship's going west. He said, well, fine. Then he asked, how are you making out with your problem? He said, we're holding our own. Anderson's, okay, fine, I'll be talking to you later. And that was the last anybody ever heard of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Sometime between 7:20 and 7:30, they're thinking that's when the vessel itself had sank. Word got back, and over the next days, they searched for the wreck, finding the wreck. And now we're going to talk about the song that came out of this. A year later, after the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, a composer, singer-songwriter named Gordon Lightfoot wrote the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald song as a way to commemorate and pay tribute to the men that lost their lives that day on the SS Edmund Fitzgerald. And he actually still plays it at his concerts to this day. So we're going to take a peek at that. We're not going to sing the whole thing, but we are going to sing the first verse, and then I want you to listen to the rest of it. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so this is the song of the story of the Edmund Fitzgerald. So we're going to sing the opening spot. Now, there are some references to some Indian terms in here, because keep in mind that these lakes weren't always known as the names that we know them now. They had Indian names before the names were changed. So sing this after me. The legend lives on from the Chippewa on down. Try that. Here we go. The legend lives on from the Chippewa on down. Chippewa, of course, referring to the Native Americans that live around that area. Here's the next part. Of the big lake they called Gitche Gumee. Now, I know you're probably laughing at that, but that is the Native American name of Lake Superior over there in the Great Lake area. Okay, so let's try it. Here we go. Of the big lake they called Gitche Gumee. Here's the next line. The lake, it is said, never gives up her dead. Try that. Here we go. The lake, it is said, never gives up her dead. And the last line that you guys on this screen, that we're going to bounce back to the top. When the skies of November turn gloomy. I didn't quite get the word November out correctly. My apologies. All right, let's try that. Here we go. When the skies of November turn gloomy. Now we're going to jump back to the top. And now they're going to describe the ship itself. Okay, so here we go. With a load of iron ore, 26,000 tons more. Try that. With a load of iron ore, 26,000 tons more. And check out all these rhythms we got. All these rhythms should look very familiar to you. We got tas, we got TTs and trues. We even have that T pattern that we talked about. Okay, here's the next one. Then the Edmund Fitzgerald weighed empty. Try that. Then the Edmund Fitzgerald weighed empty. Okay, next part. That good ship and true was a bone to be chewed. Try that line. Here we go. That good ship and true was a bone to be chewed. Now keep in mind, when we say bone to be chewed, that we're saying the storm was chewing on the ship like a bone. And then the last one. When the gales of November came early. Sing that. When the gales of November came early. All right, so we're going to sing this first section here, and then I'm just going to let the CD run, and we're going to listen to the rest. And my apologies if this little section here is a little hard to see, okay? I was trying to push the book down as I took the screenshot of this. So just follow it as best you can, and keep in mind that your quiz is going to be asking you some things about the song. So hopefully you're paying attention to the story of the song. All right, you guys ready? Okay, so let's go ahead and sing the first verse, and then we're going to listen to verses 2 through 7. Hitting play. All right, I want to hear you guys singing through the screen, okay? Let me hear you singing. The legend lives on from the Chippewa down of the big lake they call Gitchagumi. But a lake is never gives up her dead when the skies in November turn gloomy. With a load of iron ore, 26,000 tons more than the Edmund Fitzgerald weighed empty. A good ship and true was a bone to be chewed when the gales in November came early. Now we just listen.
The ship was the pride of the American side, coming back from some mill in Wisconsin. As the big freighters go, it was bigger than most, with a crew and good captain well seasoned. Concluding some terms with a couple of steel firms when they left fully loaded for Cleveland. And later that night when the ship's bell rang, could it be the north wind they'd been feeling?
Number 3.
The wind in the wires made a tattletale sound, and a wave broke over the railing. And every man knew, as the captain did too, 'twas the witch of November come stealing.
Not a real witch, they're talking about the weather.
The dawn came late and the breakfast had to wait, when the gales of November came slashing. When afternoon came, it was freezing rain in the face of a hurricane west wind.
4.
When supper time came, the old cook came on deck, saying, "Fellas, it's too rough to feed ya." At 7 p.m. a main hatchway caved in. He said, "Fellas, it's been good to know ya." The captain wired in, he had water coming in, and the good ship and crew was in peril. Later that night, when his lights went out of sight, came the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Number 5.
Does anyone know where the love of God goes when the waves turn the minutes to hours? The searchers all say they'd have made Whitefish Bay if they put 15 more miles behind her. They might have split up, or they might have capsized. They may have broke deep and took water. And all that remains is the faces and the names of the wives and the sons and the daughters. Lake Huron rolls, Superior sings in the rooms of her ice-water mansion. Old Michigan steams like a young man's dreams. The islands and bays are for sportsmen. And farther below, Lake Ontario takes in what Lake Erie can send her. And the iron boats go, as the mariners all know, with the gales of November, remember.
Last one.
In a their musty old home in Detroit they prayed in the Maritime Sailors Cathedral. The church bell chimed till it rang 29 times for each man on the Edmund Fitzgerald. The legend lives on from the Chippewa on down of the big lake they call Gitche Gumee. Superior, they said, never gives up her dead when the gales of November come early.
Okay, so I hope that song was enlightening, letting you know that songs don't just have to come from war or be silly songs for kids to play. These songs from our history can also depict big events, tragic events, happy events, different events in our history, and this is one of them. They're just a great song by Gordon Lightfoot. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed today, and next week we're going to explore a few more songs from our American history. And we are hoping that soon I will be able to get you in the classroom and we'll be able to do some cool stuff in here with the iPads and things. But till then, thank you so much for keeping up with your lessons and your quizzes. And as always, when you're done with this video, make sure you click on the link in the description below if you're watching on YouTube for the quiz. You can either go back to my website if you came from there and find the link for the video there, or you can find the quiz embedded in Schoology under this video, okay? No matter how you get there, please go make sure you take your quiz, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you guys soon. Bye.